So imagine writing a spiritual manifesto, right? And this manifesto claims to hold the ultimate, definitive truth of the entire universe.
Okay, wow. That is a pretty bold claim.
Right. And normally when you see something like that, it comes with a pretty strict set of
Oh,
rules.
absolutely. It's usually,
It'll,
give away all your worldly possessions, move to some remote compound somewhere,
yeah, completely reject modern society.
and definitely stop caring about things like money or physical pleasure.
Exactly. But what if a movement came along claiming to have the supreme answers to life, death, the cosmos, and then actively told you to, like, go out, attend social events, make some money, and enjoy sex?
Wait, really? It actually encourages that.
It does. It's this completely counterintuitive hook for a religious movement, but it is a foundational piece of the ideology we are unpacking today.
I mean, that really flips the script on what we expect from a highly structured belief system.
Yeah.
You're usually asked to choose, right, between spiritual enlightenment and earthly enjoyment.
Right, they're usually complete opposites.
Exactly. So merging the two, that is a very specific, a very calculated psychological strategy.
Strategy is the perfect word for it. So today, our deep dive is focused on a highly unusual, just incredibly intricate manifesto. It was written on June 18th, 2003, by an author known as Xue Feng.
And this outlines the creation of a movement called Lifechanyuan, right?
Yes, Lifechanyuan. And to really understand this, we're pulling from a whole stack of sources today. We've got the translated 2003 manifesto itself, various primary documents from the movement, and some historical context notes to help us, build a complete picture of what's actually going on here.
Which is super helpful because the text is pretty dense.
Oh, it is. And the very first line of this manifesto just boldly claims that after 7,000 years of humanity exploring in the darkness, Lifechanyuan has finally arrived to serve as a literal transit station to a supreme life space.
Wow. I mean, a statement like that does not leave a lot of room for interpretation. He's planting a massive flag right at the start.
He really is. Now, before we get any further, I want to establish some very clear ground rules for you, the listener, because honestly, this text is wild.
Yeah, it really goes all over the place.
It touches on multiple major world religions, it makes aggressive claims about the scientific method, and it heavily features politically charged ideologies from all across the spectrum. So we want to be absolutely clear here. Neither of us are endorsing or taking sides on any of these viewpoints.
Right, whether they lean left, right, religious, secular, or literally anything in between.
Exactly. We're strictly serving as your impartial guides today.
Our goal is just to analyze the mechanics of the text. We want to explore the concepts presented in the original source material and figure out how it attempts to construct its reality.
Yeah, we're basically just looking at the architectural blueprints of an ideology, nothing more.
Just the blueprints.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because what exactly makes up the foundation of Lifechanyuan? The author didn't just invent a new religion out of thin air, right?
No, not at all.
He essentially went shopping through human history. It's like the ultimate philosophical buffet plate.
He really did. I
Yep.
mean, to understand how this philosophy works, you have to look at the ingredients Xu Feng chose to include.
Right.
The text explicitly defines Lifechanyuan as the integration of Christianity, Catholicism, Islam, Buddhism, Taoism, science, and perhaps most surprisingly, Mao Zedong thought.
Okay, stop right there, because this is where the text almost gives me whiplash.
It's a lot to take in.
It's one thing to say, all religions share a common thread of love or peace or whatever, but integrating Catholicism, empirical science, and Maoism.
It's a very chaotic mix.
I need to break this down, because on paper, these concepts should instantly destroy each other. I mean, for example, Mao Zedong thought relies heavily on dialectical materialism.
Which is a massive roadblock for any kind of spiritual integration.
Right. And for anyone listening who hasn't brushed up on political theory lately, dialectical materialism is the idea that all historical change comes from physical, material realities. Class struggle, that kind of thing.
It explicitly rejects the spiritual world.
Completely. It views religion as this man-made distraction from the actual physical revolution. So how do you take a philosophy that essentially says God is an illusion meant to keep the working class quiet and bolt it onto Catholicism?
Which is entirely based on submitting to a divine, unseen hierarchy.
Exactly. And then on top of all of that, you throw in empirical science, which demands testable physical proof before it believes anything.
Yeah.
If you put all of these into the same engine, it feels like the whole machine should just violently explode.
Well, what's fascinating here is the sheer ambition of creating a unified theory of everything. He's essentially acting as a sort of ideological software emulator.
Okay, an emulator. Walk me through that.
Think about trying to run Apple software, a Windows program, and a Linux interface on the exact same hard drive at the exact same time.
It wouldn't work.
Right. Without something translating the code, the system crashes immediately. Su Teng is claiming that his manifesto is the emulator.
Oh, I see. So he's saying the previous systems weren't entirely wrong. They just couldn't talk to each other.
That's the trick. When movements try to establish themselves as the ultimate truth, they face a really risky choice.
Like what?
Well, if they claim everything that came before them was just a complete lie, they end up alienating millions of potential followers.
Oh, sure. You don't want to tell people they've been stupid their whole lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the Lifechanyuan approach is to claim that they are just the final software update. The text literally states that by integrating these massive, seemingly contradictory forces, it truthfully explains the origin of the universe and the mystery of life.
So it's very inclusive in a weird way.
It is. It tells the listener, hey, you don't have to abandon your Christian faith, your Buddhist practices, or your trust in the scientific method. You just have to realize they were all incomplete beta versions, and they were all pointing directly to me.
Wow. It's a brilliant way to lower the barrier to entry. I mean, you're not asking a follower to admit they were foolish for believing in their previous religion. You're just offering them the final puzzle piece that makes it all make sense.
Exactly.
But you can't just throw out a claim that you've built the ultimate philosophical operating system and expect people to take it purely on faith, right? I mean,
Yeah.
You need to show your work. You need to show the code.
And that is exactly why the text suddenly pivots. It moves away from this broad, poetic integration and dives straight into obsessive mathematical proofs and cosmic architecture.
Oh my God, the numbers in this section are relentless.
They really are.
The manifesto claims to literally prove the existence of the greatest creator using exactly 40 special natural phenomena and 8 logical reasonings. It doesn't say many phenomena. It says exactly 40.
Yeah, exactly 40.
Then it outlines 8 characteristics of this creator and 8 major relations the creator has with human beings.
And that heavy repetition of the number 8, that's a classic structural anchor.
Really? How so?
Well, in many Asian cultures, particularly Chinese culture, 8 is highly auspicious. It represents wealth, prosperity, and just this infinite balance.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. And it just builds from there. The text maps out this massive 36-dimension space.
The dimensions are wild.
They sound like science fiction. It names these incredible layers of reality, like the perfect 1,000-year world, the immortal 10,000-year world, and Buddha the Elysium world. It even claims it can finally explain the mystery of the Egyptian pyramids.
Of course it does.
Right. But how does listing 40 phenomena actually prove anything to the reader? Like, what is the mechanic there?
It works by borrowing the aesthetic of science to legitimize faith.
The aesthetic of science. I like that.
Yeah. The text takes observable realities, things like the water cycle, or the exact distance of the Earth from the sun, or even the mathematical perfection of a spider's web.
Okay.
And it frames them not as natural evolution, but as an engineering schematic.
Oh, I see.
The logic is simple. If
Yeah.
you are looking at a highly complex mathematical schematic, there must be a chief engineer.
Right.
So by providing exactly 40 phenomena and 36 dimensions, the text just overwhelms the reader with perceived structural certainty.
That makes total sense. Because for a listener who feels like the real world is terrifyingly chaotic, this highly organized, mathematically rigid map of the universe, it probably feels like a safe haven.
Exactly. It makes the magic feel like a science.
I see that. You feel like you are stepping out of an unpredictable wilderness and into a building where every single brick has been counted, labeled, and signed off on by a cosmic architect.
Yes, it's very
Yep.
comforting. Until it isn't.
Right, because then right in the middle of this beautifully organized 36-dimensional map, the text drops a massive ticking clock.
The ticking clock.
Written in 2003, the manifesto makes a very grounded, very specific promise to lead its followers safely through the catastrophe fore and after 2013.
The 2013 prophecy. This is where the structural certainty is weaponized into urgency.
And I have to challenge the logic of this, because it always seems like such a bizarre self-own for a movement.
Setting a date.
Yeah. Why do manifestos so often lock themselves into specific near-term dates for global catastrophes? If you write this in 2003 and set the apocalypse for 2013, you are literally giving your own religion a 10-year expiration date.
It does seem counterproductive.
Right. If December 31st, 2013 rolls around and the world hasn't ended, doesn't your whole 36-dimensional house of cards just immediately collapse?
It seems like a terrible gamble from the outside. But internally, setting a specific date serves a vital psychological function.
Really?
Yeah, a 10-year timeline is basically the sweet spot for a movement like this.
Why 10 years?
Because it is close enough to feel dangerously real and immediate, but far enough away to give the author time to actually recruit, build infrastructure, and solidify the community.
Oh, so it's a pressure cooker.
Exactly. You don't have time to leisurely debate the philosophical nuances of Taoism versus empirical science.
Right, because the world is ending.
You have to get on the transit station right now because the train is leaving and the catastrophe is coming. It forces a decision and binds the followers together in a shared state of survival mode.
So we've got this massive 36-dimensional cosmic spreadsheet and a looming deadline to survive it. But how does that actually translate to the listener's daily life?
That is the big question.
Because how does this philosophy deal with the fact that human life, on a random Tuesday morning is often just really difficult and full of suffering?
Well, this is where the text shifts its focus directly from the macro universe to the micro human experience. And I'll warn you, it does not offer comfort in the traditional sense.
Not at all. Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text asserts that absolutely all sorrow, all pain, and all misfortune in your life are mainly caused by your own spirit and soul defects.
Yes, your own defect.
It explicitly states that your suffering has absolutely nothing to do with God, the devil, society, or other people.
Nothing at all.
We talk a lot today about having an internal locus of control, right? The idea that you take extreme ownership of your life. But this pushes that concept to an absolute, almost terrifying extreme.
It completely eliminates external blame.
And I find that incredibly harsh. I mean, imagine someone listening to this who has just been laid off because of a massive corporate bankruptcy.
Right?
Or someone who got into a car accident that was caused by a drunk driver.
Yeah.
Telling that person that their misfortune is entirely their own spiritual defect and completely unrelated to the society around them. That is a crushing psychological burden.
It is heavy.
Why would anyone willingly adopt a belief system that blames them for every bad thing that happens to them?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
we can see exactly why the ideology requires it, and honestly, why people actually find it appealing.
Appealing? How?
It comes down to control. Think about it. If society, a drunk driver, or a bad economy can cause your suffering, then you are a victim of an unpredictable, dangerous world.
True.
And if the world is unpredictable, Lifechanyuan cannot guarantee your safety.
Ah, but if it's my fault?
Then the solution is entirely within your grasp.
Oh, wow.
It's like a cosmic financial audit. If your bank account is empty, it's not the economy's fault, it's your bad accounting. The text frames spiritual pursuit as the only way to pursue good fortune and avoid disaster.
So it's transactional.
Very. By claiming that all suffering stems from your spiritual defects, they turn their belief system into the ultimate survival tool. You aren't a helpless victim. You just need to fix your defects by following their specific path.
It gives you agency, even if that agency comes packaged in a ton of guilt.
Exactly.
But this leads right back to the paradox we started with, because you would expect a text that demands such intense spiritual accountability to also demand total physical purity.
Like giving up all your money.
Right. No money, no indulgence. But Xu Feng takes a totally different, incredibly pragmatic route regarding worldly desires.
And this is perhaps the smartest retention strategy in the entire text. Oh yeah. Many ascetic philosophies forbid money, status, or physical pleasure. But that creates constant friction because humans naturally crave those things.
Yeah, it's just human nature.
So people burn out. They leave the movement because the deprivation is just too agonizing.
But Xu Feng essentially says, hey, we get it. We are human.
Right.
The text openly acknowledges that power, status, money, sex, and fame sustain our profane desires. It freely admits that these are things we actually need and want.
It's very practical.
It explicitly encourages followers to participate in social and religious activities to make life colorful and relieve the material pain of reality.
It is a very clever hierarchy of needs. By not forbidding worldly pleasures, the ideology removed the primary reason people abandon strict movements.
It just categorizes those physical things as profane or like lower tier.
Exactly. It allows you to have them, to enjoy them, but insists that only spiritual abundance will meet your extraordinary, refined, high-grade desires.
It keeps you tethered to the real world. You can still hold a job, you can still go to a party, but your primary loyalty remains to the spiritual hierarchy of the transit station.
Yes.
Which brings up the most critical question of all. If we have to navigate these 36 dimensions, prepare for a catastrophe, and fix our spiritual defects while managing our worldly desires, who exactly is capable of doing this?
That is the million-dollar question.
And who is delivering the message?
This is the moment Xu Feng steps out from behind the philosophical curtain. He establishes his ultimate authority, and he does it by strictly categorizing the human race.
Right, he divides humanity into 5 distinct levels. The ignorant person, the laity, the mortal, the sage, and finally, the celestial beings.
And naturally, Xu Feng places himself at the very top.
Naturally. He operates as a divine messenger. He actually asks the reader a direct, almost challenging question. He says, if I say, I've been dispatched by Goddess and Buddha and come from the 1,000-year world to enlighten the human being in the mortal world, will you believe it?
He is drawing a line in the sand right there. You either accept his divine authority or you don't.
But it's his view of the people who don't believe him that I find so jarring.
It gets pretty aggressive.
Very. The text uses incredibly vivid, harsh animal analogies to describe non-believers. He says that even the greatest musician cannot make cattle appreciate the masterpiece, lofty mountains and flowing water.
Yeah.
He says a great singer cannot teach pigs to sing, and a precious diamond is completely worthless to a donkey.
It's intense.
He concludes that medicine cannot cure a fatal disease, and likewise, Buddha can only save those who are fortunate people.
The contrast in tone is severe, especially for a text that began by claiming to synthesize all the world's major religions into one harmonious truth.
Right. It's a massive friction point. Isn't there a glaring contradiction here?
How so?
Well, he claims he has been literally dispatched by divine forces to enlighten humanity. But simultaneously, he compares the vast majority of humanity to cattle, pigs, and donkeys who are fundamentally incapable of appreciating the diamond he is offering.
Yeah, that is a stark contrast.
How can you be the savior of humanity while calling most of them farm animals too dumb to be saved?
This raises an important question about how closed belief systems actually protect themselves from failure.
Okay, I'm listening.
What looks like a contradiction to you is actually an ingenious built-in defense mechanism for the ideology itself. Think about the massive risk Xu Feng is taking here.
Okay.
What happens if people read his manifesto and just laugh? What happens if scientists point out the logical flaws in his 4D phenomena? Or, if 2013 comes and goes without a global catastrophe?
Well, if he admits he might be wrong, the emulator crashes.
Precisely. If the ideology allows for the possibility that the message itself is flawed, the authority dissolves. So the text preemptively categorizes anyone who rejects the message as inherently genetically deficient.
Ah, I see. So if I read this and say, the math on these 36 dimensions doesn't add up, the failure isn't in Xu Feng's math.
No.
The failure is in me.
Exactly. By declaring that only a rare group of fortunate people can be saved, the text creates an exclusive, highly guarded in-group.
Wow.
If someone rejects the message, the believer doesn't have to question the validity of the manifesto. They simply look at the skeptic and say, well, of course you don't understand it. You are a donkey staring at a diamond.
That is an incredibly potent psychological shield. It completely insulates the ideology from outside criticism.
Completely.
Any pushback they face from the secular world just reinforces their special status. I mean, the louder the donkeys bray at them, the more precious their diamond feels.
It is a closed loop of validation. And for the person who does believe, the reward is immense.
Because they get to be special.
Yes. By accepting the message, you are proving to yourself that you are not an ignorant mortal. You are one of the rare, fortunate celestial beings capable of hearing the music. It flatters the believer's ego while weaponizing their isolation.
So what does this all mean? We have navigated an absolute labyrinth today.
It's been a journey.
It really has. We started with an audacious attempt to run Catholicism, empirical science, and Maoist dialectical materialism on the same ideological hard drive.
Which is still hard to wrap my head around.
Right. And then we explored the strategic use of 40 natural phenomena and 36 dimensions to create this illusion of mathematical certainty. And we looked at how a 2013 doomsday clock was used to turn that certainty into urgent action.
And we also unpacked the heavy psychological trade-off required by the text.
Yeah, accepting total crushing blame for all your own suffering.
Exactly, in exchange for the ultimate feeling of control over your destiny. All while pragmatically allowing followers to keep their worldly desires for money and social connection.
And finally, we saw how the movement builds an impenetrable fortress around itself. offering followers an exclusive identity as the fortunate few while preemptively dismissing the rest of the critical world as cattle completely deaf to the music.
It is a masterclass in ideological architecture, showing how a movement can synthesize disparate beliefs, weaponize structure, and insulate itself from failure.
It really is. And for you listening, whether you view a text like Lifechanyuan as a profound piece of spiritual guidance or as a highly manipulative ideology, it serves as a truly fascinating mirror for modern life.
A mirror.
Yeah, because honestly, the mechanics we've discussed today aren't just limited to 2003 manifestos. Think about how modern social media algorithms and internet echo chambers operate today.
Oh, that's a great point.
They also promise to explain a chaotic world, you know?
Right.
They also blame outsiders for society's problems, and they also make you feel like you are part of an exclusive group of people who finally get it while everyone else is just blindly wandering around.
The human craving for absolute order and a clear hierarchy of meaning doesn't go away. It just finds new transit stations.
Exactly. Which brings us back to the very poetic lines Shafeng uses to close his manifesto. He writes, "Take a broad view, and you will see faraway mountains are fresh and green."
It's a beautiful, calming promise of clarity and peace.
It is. But it leaves us with a final thought to mull over, a question that lingers long after you analyze the architecture of any ideology. When a movement arrives claiming to have the ultimate mathematically perfected map to the entire universe, does the true appeal for the follower actually lie in the objective accuracy of that map?
Or does the appeal simply lie in our own desperate, deeply human need to finally stop feeling lost in the dark?